The following training is sponsored by the Neoga Library System. We serve our member libraries in Niagara, Orleans, and Genesee counties. You can always visit our main web page listed here at neoga.org, or certainly visit your local library homepage and use your library card to get access to streaming videos, downloadable music, audiobooks, ebooks, and even more from the comfort of your own home. Thank you.
Hello. So here we are again, talking about our soft-skilled opposites. And one of the things I had talked about was team building. And again, I had looked in the thesaurus to find kind of opposites of team. And of course, you have solo, alone, isolated, those types of things. And so I went again poking around, and I found actually, to start with, these graphics here, you can see again, all of the links will be in the description, and the graphics from this site 16personalities.com, of course, they have personality test in that. One of the things that came up consistently as I was looking on the internet as far as the opposite of a team is actually personality clashes. So when you start looking at things, and I know this might be a little hard to see, but they have on here, it was the analysts. So they have 4 different personality types. There's an architect, a logician, a commander, a debater. These are in the analysts. The diplomats here in green, there's an advocate, mediator, protagonist, campaigner, different ways of doing that. Sentinels, logistician, defender, executive, and console for those personality types, and they have a little blurb about all of them in there. But then there's the explorer personality types, where you have things like a virtuoso, you have an adventurer, entrepreneur, and entertainer. So I thought those were interesting to start off with, and maybe look at more if we're interested in that, or if it comes to that. So I went again, as I was poking around with Service Skills e-learning. They had a nice blog post on how to handle personality clashes at work, and then David Witt talked about 4 different types of team conflict. So we'll hit the highlights on those, and again, of course, have those in the description. So the Service Skills blog, on there, they write, effective teamwork is critically important for excelling in a highly competitive market. Dysfunctional teams are bad for business. Not getting along with a team member at work is unpleasant for everyone, harms productivity. An ongoing personality clash may be unspoken but obvious, and the disagreements that can result cause other team members to take sides, and then they sort themselves into cliques, and it can be a trouble. So there are some people we just don't like. There are other people who just don't like us, and sometimes that can change as we get to know each other, but usually it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't know. I would hope that it does, but well, that can be a real problem at work. Personality clashes can lead to unhealthy rivalry, lack of cooperation, poor communication, and an unpleasant work environment, and disputes and clashes in the workplace. The problem is that we don't like to admit that we simply don't like a person for no reason. The blog post goes on to recommend several key skill tips for dealing with the clashes. So they talk about the key to dealing with a personality clash with a coworker is just to accept it for what it is, irrational on both sides. It's not easy to accept that we're being irrational when we don't like someone, so we invent things that are wrong with them to justify our point of view. And yet you can bet that people are going to do the same thing with us too. And a key to dealing with any personality clash with a coworker is just to accept it for what it is, irrational. And that is, of course, irrational. That is your acceptance of your own feelings. It's irrational on your part. And it doesn't necessarily mean that a coworker doesn't do a good job or that he or she needs to be your enemy. But you might want to talk about it with that person, depending. So if you talk with the person, talk to them privately, allow for some honest communication, between the two. And, if you attempt to do this, or if you try and do this, they talk about this as far as you should admit your part in the conflict first. Say something like, I seem to have caused a problem between us. By first admitting your part in the conflict, hopefully you'll be halfway to a solution. Again, a lot of this stuff you got to take with a grain of salt. You got to be careful with what you do. And you kind of have to measure the temperature too of the organization. In our case, your libraries. culture and what might be good. It might be better not to talk to someone privately, but to have a little bit of a refereed or a mediated intervention. And then it depends if you have, unions or whatnot. There's different procedures and things for that. Your library too might have a policy in place for certain grievances. It might be worth looking into. So again, just, be careful. These are just general statements to try and give you an idea of what you might want to do. And David Witt then goes on to talk about 4 types of team conflicts in his post at the Blanchard Leader Chat site. Now, David Witt with this Blanchard Leader Chat was much more about how the actual team leader, whoever that might be, can actually start to recognize and help manage these personality clashes before they really get to the point where there's a genuine conflict involved. Okay. So he talks about the leader watching groups, watching kind of the herd and maintaining all of this. Okay. So, as a leader, if you're watching, you see conflicts over position, strategies, or opinion. If you have 2 or 3 strong but differing positions that are being argued within the group, it's getting nowhere. A leader might stop the group and ask each member to take a turn talking with no interruption or debate. The rest are just to listen and try to understand where they are coming from and why they are opposing the solution that they are. And again, I come from this. I absolutely love the quote from Pulp Fiction. Do you listen or wait to talk? And I find I have a tendency to wait to talk, especially if I'm hot under the collar with an opinion. So I concentrate generally on, if I'm trying to be quiet, to breathe. I might put down a couple of notes of what I think, but then I try to really listen and stop myself from waiting to talk. So for myself, if I'm in the group, I try and do that to give other people that respect. If there's mistrust or uneven communication, if some people on the team are dominating the conversation while others sit silent or appear to have dropped out, a leader might stop the process and ask each person what they need from others to feel effective in the group and how these others can help. Another simple practice is to appoint a process observer. It's a little bit like a referee. The process observer's job is to focus on how the team is interacting. So they could be talking about anything. It doesn't matter. It's all about the interpersonal interactions in the team. And if the team gets out of kilter, there might be tempers rising, or if communication is not flowing, the process observer is allowed to call time and point out their observations. So again, like a referee. If there's power issues and personal agendas, conflict that involves power issues or strong personal agendas must sometimes also be dealt with. The reality is that some people just do not fit on a team, and sometimes the leader has to be willing to remove them or offer them another role. This doesn't happen often, really, but occasionally it's needed. The good news is that once it's dealt with, the team usually takes a leap forward. And this should be an option only when the other attempts to work with the person simply do not work or they have failed. Okay. So David Witt also mentions if personality clashes are severe, the leader might get everyone to take a personality test to try and sort things out. The idea being if people understand underlying personalities better, they might get along. And that's why to kind of, let me scroll back up again. If you have someone who is in, say here, what we're looking at on the screen, an adventurer, an entrepreneur, an entertainer, they might be more able to kind of dominate over, or even here like a campaigner as a diplomat or that. They might be able to actually dominate over other people, and even accidentally. They may not really know or understand, not understand, but they might not have much insight as to what they're doing, and it may be accidental. So I try and come at it with really good intentions, and think that, not everybody is out to kind of, sandbag a team or anybody or an organization, but, my experience is the way things are. So Okay, well, I again hope you liked this video. And again, I've gotten a couple of different suggestions for other videos, and we're gonna shoot those, and hopefully this will work really well for you. So that's all I've got for today. So thanks. We'll see you in the next video.